And I think the challenge of our culture today is we see teenagers outside of faith. We want to give you a glimpse into teenagers that have deep faith in God and a love for God. And this is just a small microcosm of the many we have in our church. Yeah. We have some of the best teenagers on the planet at Church Island. And so I'll start with whoever wants to jump in and just talk a little bit about why faith is so important to you, why your relationship with God is so important.
I personally think that it's like, as a teenager, most of you have gone through teenager, it's just like a lot of things that go on. There's school, there's sports, there's a social life, popularity. There's just so much things that go on in life. And to know that you have a foundation in God, it just makes it so much better. Like, he's the peace in like chaos. And I don't know, it's just a good feeling to know that you have someone to always go back to. Even like if your friends stab you in your back, you always have someone there. And you have a bunch of spiritual leaders around you and friends that go to church. So it's good to know that you have people around you that share the same values, et cetera, et cetera.
And she does not like to speak in public.
No, she doesn't.
Oh, you don't? She loves to speak. All right, who else?
I think I also agree with Precious. I feel like as a teenager, you go through you're growing up, so I feel like people expect like the stereotypical teenager to be a certain way. But I feel like me and Precious, as we go to school, we express that we love God. We express that he's a big part of our life. And I feel like God being in my life shows that I don't need to be a normal teenager. I don't need to act the way people act. I was raised a certain way, and God has influenced me to become a person that I should be. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love what you said, and no, but for real though, like, we're living in a world today that's like so divided and so against each other. So to be in like, I'm going a little ahead of myself, but to be in a church that's like so diverse and we have like a very eclectic group of people, it's so good to just be with them, and we share the same values, and we grow together. And I think that's what was really important about this internship this year. We all grow together, and our faith kind of rises as one, and it was really unifying. So, yeah.
Can you repeat the question again?
These guys were preaching too much. Is that what you're saying? Why is faith so important to you? Why is church so important to you?
I'd say church is very important to me because it serves as like a guideline throughout life. It sort of gives you all types of rules and guidelines to how to live your life, and it always assures you to be on the straight path. And church is just a very constant and consistent way of living, and I feel like the world needs to see that more, because a lot of people are influenced by like their friends, family, or celebrities nowadays, or different walks of life. So it's really uncommon to see teenagers to walk in faith, because it's a very rare thing to see. But I feel like more teens really need to take in faith and God, because it's a really good way of living, teaches you how to love others, respect others, and you really see the world in a positive way.
That's good. Thanks, brother. How about you, Isaiah?
Man, they really left me nothing to say, but it's just really important to like keep your faith growing and God staying God, because when you're with God, everything just turns good. Like, that's what I learned. Like, even through the bad, the good, everything like with God just makes your life a whole lot better. And I feel like for teenagers, just like mood swings, something like that. But yeah, like after all that stuff, like all the stuff you go through, even as an adult, God just has an impact on everything in your life.
Yeah. And so you know, talk about impacting our lives, and when you look at what we go through, we all go through stuff. Everybody goes through stuff. And I think a lot of times adults have this conception. I served as a youth pastor for 14 and a half years. And I got a glimpse into the heart of teenagers. And let me tell you, adults sometimes demean them, thinking, when you go through what we've gone through, you'll know what we know. They're going through stuff that we never went through. They're experiencing things that we never had to experience. And some of them at a level where we ought to celebrate they're in God's house. They may not always act the way we want them to act, speak the right way, but They may not even dress the right way at some times, but you know, at the end of the day, we're glad they're in God's house. And that ought to be what we celebrate. And so, but faith also has challenges. And so what are some of the things that challenge you about your faith or kind of push you to really go deep in your faith? Isaiah?
Consistency is a very hard thing. Like keeping it consistent over and over again, it's a very hard thing because sometimes you forget or sometimes you just like get too busy with something. But a good thing to know is like keep God first in everything you do. Like that'll just like keep you like if you do it more often, it'll keep you consistent like as you go. Like it'll just come to you. It won't just like be like, oh, I have to do this. It'll come naturally.
Yeah. Okay, so let's drill down on consistency really quick. So how many of you wrestle with consistency in your spiritual life? So is this a teen thing or is this a life thing? It's a life thing. So let's talk about that. What is it? You got two great parents. I mean, one great parent. You got two great parents. I won't tell you which one is the greatest, but they're both great parents. But in your parents, how do they help you in your faith with consistency?
I would say my mom helps me a lot because she's like a perfect example. Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
She just like everything in her life, she just dedicates to God, which really inspires me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, Amber? Yeah,
I think both, for me personally, both my parents, because my mom at a random, like I could be down on myself and she goes, no, God's with you. Like she's always encouraging me. And my dad, he knows I have an obsession with music. So he'll just bring out at a random, doesn't even know if I'm going through something like personal. He'll just bring out a song, a worship song, and he'll just play it for me. And I'll just be like, wow. It like, you know, like they might not know that something's going on, but at a random, they'll just come and like, they'll just always encourage me and preach about God constantly. And I think that's how my faith grew through them. Yeah. And just, God just.
I think one thing that I struggle with is consistency because like with like school, then like sports, then like life, things just become like so.
Can we talk about the race you and I had a couple weeks ago?
Oh, me and PT during the internship.
How long was that run? That was a long run from one end of the parking lot to the other. Okay, so talk about it.
So he was
I won, right?
He was saying
you got smoked. I don't know what you're talking about.
He was saying that he was gonna beat me. So I was like, okay, we're gonna race. So then we raced. He was faster than I thought. Like, he's not slow. But I did beat him.
Pretty significantly, by the way.
And
she's fast.
He hasn't recovered since. As I was saying before, it's like with school and then sports, it just becomes like hectic. It's like I would try to read my Bible like in the morning, but then I would have stayed up late the last night like studying, so then I wouldn't be able to wake up. So I think that like that's probably the hardest thing. And then like if I obviously used to pay attention to school, but like if I pay too much attention to school, then like track slips, or if track slips, then if track is like going well, then school slips. So then like seeing that there's an imbalance, like once I started like going back to like reading my Bible in the morning, etc., or even doing a daily devotional, it just helped there be a balance like when I started doing it.
Anybody else?
I'd say the person that had the most impact on me, as much as I love my parents, it'd probably be my grandpa, because ever since I was small, he'd always have like back in Pine Street in his old house, he's always have like a mirror, right? He's always had Bible verses and a bunch of pictures of Jesus. I don't really understand the validity of it. And he always says, how God blesses me and how he just prays over me. I always see him reading his Bible every morning. And every time I leave the house, he always says before I leave, he says, go with God. You know, every time he never forgets to say that. And he really shows me, if you keep him at the center of your heart, really there's no obstacle that you can't beat. So that's it.
So going back to consistency, sometimes as interns and even serving, sometimes you get tired of church and that almost ruins your consistency, but that's not a good thing. So you gotta always remind yourself, like, this is not a job. We're not here to put on a good service or a good concert. We're here to show people the life-changing power of Jesus. So as you remind yourself of that, you realize that, hey, I'm going to stay consistent whether I like it or not, because there are people out there that are in need of Jesus, and they need his love and they need his hope more than ever before in this world. We're seeing people in need of Jesus. So to keep consistent, I just got to remind myself that, hey, this is bigger than me. And
I think you all guys have a future in speaking because you're all really good. Let's dive back in here. How does our church help your faith? How does our church, Church Unleashed specifically, help your faith grow?
I think personally for me, I've never had like spiritual leaders in my life. I mean, my parents, but not like besides my parents. I've never had people who actually dug into me, who actually wanted to see me grow. And I feel like ever since I came to this church, I've had so many spiritual leaders that I never even thought would come. And I feel like you guys, as much as you guys keep saying that my future is here in church, and I feel like God keeps tugging on my heart. Like he keeps telling me that church is where you need to be, that ministry is where you need to be. And I feel like I used to never believe in myself like that. But so many of you guys have drilled down into me. As much as I hate public speaking, like, this is the first time I've ever been comfortable sitting somewhere and speaking in front of people. So, like, I'm truly blessed to have spiritual leaders in my life to actually guide me through the way and actually want to see me be the best person that I can be.
And I'll say this about all of our interns and a lot of our that are not up here now on the panel. There is a call of God for ministry on many of our young people. And there is a shift happening in our church. This is why we focus on the next generation. Because if we focus on us old people, there will be no church 10 years from now. It will not exist. We must put our focus on the future. And if we focus on the future, guess what? The future's bright with students like these and those who were singing before. And so absolutely there is a call on your life. So anybody else? How does our church help you grow? So spiritual leaders would be one.
Well, I guess I'll touch on what we're doing right now, services. So I would tell you about services, but you're already in one, so you kind of already know. But, you know, that's where it goes down, as they say. So basically, for me, services are very transformative throughout the week. So I think we all know this. Like, we go to Monday, we might go to work, we might go to school, whatever, homeschool. I'm boring, I know. Yeah, so we might go to work, go to school. We're going this whole week with just living the 9-to-5 regular everyday life, and then we come to church on Sundays, and it's transformative and helps inspire us, lift our spirits, and tells us that, hey, life isn't just a 9-to-5. Life isn't just school. It's all about Jesus and telling people about Jesus, and yeah.
So there's spiritual leaders. There is the inspiration you get in church to go back and bring it into school, homework, and your 9-to-5 becomes a ministry versus just the mundane. Okay. Somebody else?
I would say the people, like everybody, like all the people that serve, it's just like a real, like, it's so welcoming. Like, you walk in the church, there's someone right there to greet you. Everywhere you walk, you can just see someone like there to greet you and someone there to help you. Like, from like guest relations venue, even Ultra Kids, you have like leaders down there that help your kids and lead them to follow God. Like, there's so many things that, like, even worship, they just help you like get into the moment, get into that moment with God, just get into that right spot. It's just like so many people here to help you. That's just how I feel.
So now you're watching people serve and seeing how welcoming, loving, caring they actually are. We have an expression we say at church here: if you're not serving, you're swerving. In other words, you're off the path, but you're also, this is what he said, watching people serve. Yeah. So we're sitting on the sideline, man, somebody else can do it. Guess what our teenagers are learning? Yeah. I don't have to do it either. But when I get in the game, when I'm involved, I can actually minister through my involvement even though I never say a word. Yeah, that's good. Did you catch that? So it's spiritual leaders, it's Sunday inspirational moments, it's watching the people of our church and how they interact, how they're involved. What about you guys? My right side's feeling lonely.
No, I agree with this. I agree with all of them, like the spiritual leaders, et cetera, because it's like when life get crazy, you just have someone to go to. Like here, like especially like when you serve, you get closer with everyone, so that it becomes like a big family. And it's like if I need advice or something, then I go like specifically like to Gina or something like that. And it's good. Like I don't understand. Like if you like follow them on Instagram, if you follow like all Sarah, et cetera, you see them like reading their Bible in the morning, and it's like, oh, and you hear the stories about how they were before and how they are now. So it's like, oh, God can do like a lot. So like listen to everyone's story and how much they've grown just like helps me like, oh, I can do it too.
So now you see it going a little deeper. Now it goes into I'm watching what they do outside of church. How many think you ought to check your social media now?
At toddrbishop.
Yes, you can follow me at toddrbishop. But that's important because they don't just see what you do on Sundays. They're watching you throughout the week. They're watching moms and dads. They're watching people in the church. Notice they mention people that aren't even on staff. Well, Gina is, but some that aren't even on staff at the church. But they're in leadership within the church. So they are watching everything. And so it's kind of, you have to look at teenagers like that old, hymn, every move you make. Wasn't a hymn, but they're watching everything that you do. What about you, B?
I'd say this church has definitely got me over a bunch of fears and stuff that I would not do normally. Like I have a bunch of examples. My mom can tell you I hate getting dirty. To prove my point, germaphobe. I have hand sanitizer on me at all times.
No, wait, let me see it. Let's tell you.
It's black cherry Merlot.
Are you kidding me? It is black cherry Merlot.
It smells amazing.
That's some Bath and Body Works type stuff.
So manly.
So when I went to Buffalo, I was not afraid to get dirty. I have fear of heights. I was not afraid to get on that ladder.
Don't tell them how high you went. Very high.
Very high. When we had Night to Shine, the funny story, we had a bunch of mascots like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, all that. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. What other outfits do you guys have? So they're like, oh yeah, we have one more costume. I go to the basement. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to dress up. It's a Minnie Mouse costume. And so I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about everyone else here. So I was the best Minnie Mouse at Night to Shine.
And then you slow dance with Mickey, right? Slow dance with Mickey, like right over there.
I know, I danced with Mickey. I danced with a bunch of kids. It was a really fun experience, especially like lifting the head a bit, surprising everyone. Like, oh, who's in Minnie Mouse? It's probably like, oh, I don't know, maybe Gabby or Nicolette. And they see my face and they're like, wow. So yeah, it's definitely gotten over. Has made me do a bunch of things that I would not do for anything else. I'd do like anything for this church.
So our intern saw something into the life of our church a lot of people don't see. We never ask you to do what we're unwilling to do. Yeah. These guys picked up trash, they cleaned toilets, they did all that stuff, and so we watched them and how they developed over a summer. And some we've been watching longer, obviously, but even this summer to see the spiritual growth. I want to shift into that because I think this is a glimpse that people don't see into teenagers often, is what God's doing transformatively on the inside. And so, Brendan, you really, at that mission trip to Buffalo, the waterworks came on, but it was because God was doing something on the inside of you. You want to talk about that? We'll talk a little bit about a defining moment that we have all had in our spiritual life, but that was a defining moment for you. Talk about that.
Yeah, Buffalo was a really huge moment in my life because I just came from... I've been planning a vacation with my dad, and we came just from Florida. So we were driving up from Florida, and my mom calls me at like 11:30, and she's like, hey, do you want to go to Buffalo? I'm like, yeah, sure. She's like, you want to take a flight? I'm like, sure. She's like, by yourself? I'm like, what? Okay. So I said, yes, absolutely. It's no big deal. So I had probably...
Did you have your hand sanitizer?
I had my hand sanitizer, especially at JFK. No, especially there. So I had like a 12-hour period of like me getting home like at like 2 a.m. to my flight. So I went straight home, just changed my luggage, and went straight to Buffalo. And I'd say I worked my butt off in Buffalo. I took everything super seriously. If no matter who asked me, hey, can you do this? Can you mop the floor? Can you clean toilets? Dust this, do that. I would never say no. I took it so seriously. I'm like, if you want done, I will get it done. If you ask me, no questions asked. So like, especially with the barbecue, I didn't eat the entire day.
So we did a community barbecue, free for anybody who wanted to show up. We fed, how many people did we feed?
250 or 275.
275 people in the ghetto of this area, which is the ghetto, were fed a hot meal. Some, it was their only meal that day.
So that morning, I didn't really have breakfast because the selection I didn't like. So I'm like, don't worry, I'll just... I had like a cup of yogurt, my bad. I mean, the food was normally good, whatever, that's beside the point. So I had probably like a cup of yogurt the whole day. So they're having the barbecue, and I'm like, man, I'm pretty hungry. Yeah, but I did not eat the entire day, because if I took a plate for myself, that's one less plate for someone out there. So thank you. So I just like, if anything, I'll just get like, they had vending machines at the hotel, I'll just get like a bag of chips and like Gatorade, and I'll survive. I'm not gonna die, so it's no big deal. But I really think about everyone else. Then I put others in front of myself all the time.
So a transformation moment was a shift from you being number one to, whoa, I can't. When you're exposed to other things, your perspective changes. And so you had a shift of perspective. And I'll say this, Brendan's got a great gift. In fact, we just hired him at the church. So he's our administrative technician. And so he's going to be working directly with us to help with some of the stuff in the church. But at that trip, he broke down in tears for the blessings of God he's overlooked. And I remember sitting there on Friday at the chapel in the auditorium, and it was uncontrollable tears of appreciation of the presence of God in his life, but also the provision of God in his life. And I don't think a lot of teenagers get that till too late. Yeah. That they become it's all about me, it's not about anybody else. And that's why trips like this are so important, because you see, oh my gosh, the rest of the world is not as blessed as I am. Yeah. And there are people struggling. I'm not going to eat because I don't know if this person will ever eat. And so it was very moving for us to watch. I know for all the leaders, we were like, oh my gosh, Brendan had a moment with God. Like, it was powerful. So anybody, another moment that you guys had with God, something that really defined you, could have been this year, could have been...
I've always said from a very young age, my ultimate goal in life is just to help people. But to helping people, I wouldn't want to go out my comfort zone. But I feel like now my goal is to help people, but out of my comfort zone. So I feel like during Buffalo, when we did a car wash, you called me over and you made me pray. And I was like, he's joking, right? And he was like, no, I'm not joking.
I don't joke about prayer.
Yeah, I kind of realized. So as we're praying, and I was just like, I was scared because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to be that person who could have maybe not changed something. So as I was praying, words just flew out of my mouth. I just kept going and going. And as I was done, PT goes, wow. And I go, wait, did I actually just do that? And it was just like, it was a moment where it's like, yeah, that made you uncomfortable, but God spoke through you. It wasn't you. It was like God took over my body. So I feel like my uncomfortable things, I'm low-key slowly getting comfortable now.
And I learned what low-key means this summer. So it makes sense to me now. If it doesn't make sense to you, see them after.
Yeah, so I'm getting comfortable with my uncomfortable things. And I feel like you said, your uncomfortable things are calling you to your calling. And I feel like slowly I'm getting called to my calling. I feel like God's speaking to me and I don't know exactly what he's trying to say, but I'm learning each and every day what he's pushing me to do, what he's been tugging on my heart to do. So I'm no longer like, okay, you might be tugging on my heart, I'm not gonna do anything about it. I'm now saying, I'm submitting my life to you, and I'm gonna do what you want me to do.
I would say one of the things that moved my life the most was like, it was like a couple days after my dad's surgery, and we had you guys had an ascend night, like a moment, like a prayer night basically. And when we were there, I saw my dad. He went up, and it just like it hit me. Like I never seen my dad in like pain or anything like that, and it hit me at that moment.
So your dad responding to the altar to come forward to be prayed for in his pain sent a message to you. What was that message, Isaiah? Can you summarize that in words?
It's kind of hard to like put it in words, but it was like an eye opener to me. Like when I saw him up there, it was just like, go and support him. He needs you. At this moment, he needs you. So I went up there and I supported him, prayed for him, and now I'm like him.
And he injured his leg last week. So like father, like son. So Malachi?
I think specifically it was, I know the specific date, hold on. It was January 11th of this year. And if you guys know, I never cry. But during that time, I don't know, I was so overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff. Around that time, I pulled my hamstring. I just felt so defeated, specifically with like school and just like life. I just didn't know like what it was. And January 11th was a sun night. And I remember I was taking pictures that day. And something told me just like drop. So I dropped the camera and I just looked at me and started crying because like we were singing the song, I was singing the song "So Will I," and it was the song, if you know it, it's basically saying that like everything around you, if everything worships, so shall you. And then the verse that really stuck to me was you're the one that never leaves the one behind. So that helped me remember that like, even though at that time I just didn't feel that God was with me whatsoever, like reminded me that like he's here, he's for me, he's not against me, even though at that moment I thought that he was.
They love when I touch their hair.
A moment that, well, I feel like all of us on this panel have had a few moments because, I don't know, we're really close knit and we've really been together. But one moment that really stands out to me is a moment where like, not that I got away from you guys, but like, I kind of like separated myself and kind of went along. So it was about last summer, I went to PK Vacay for the first time, which is basically a camp for pastors' kids. Shout out to Ed Young. Love you, Ed. So basically, it was the last night of PK Vacay. It was 4th of July, and we were having a service, and Pastor Rich Wilkerson was speaking. And at the end of the message, he had an altar call, and he feels like he said, you believe that there's people in here that were called into ministry, and that and then a lot of us went up, and Pastor Rich prayed over me, and I don't know, I just really felt the call of God on my life, and I don't know, I felt like he was telling me to go into ministry, and I don't know, there was something about that moment where there was like 200 plus pastors' kids there, and we're all just, it was, what song were they singing? I think it was like mighty to save or something like that. And it was just a moment where we all broke down in tears, like a bunch of us were crying together, and we were just all lifting up the name of Jesus together. And I really felt that there's people, there's pastor kids all around this nation who are having the same experience as you and the same feeling as you, and we're feeling this call of ministry together, and those are my brothers. And and that night I felt the call of ministry. And I think that was the first time.
So a lot of times when we look at teenagers, we see the shallowness, not the depth. We see the shallowness of what we see, not the depth of the things we don't see. And so what you have hopefully seen, each one of them were able to articulate a very specific moment where they had a face-to-face moment with God. And you heard it, whether it's remembered by a date, whether it's by an event, whether it's by a conversation, whether it's by a mission trip. There's literally a defining point where they say, this moment right here was for me. It was it. And I think so often we overlook what God is doing around us because we're so focused on what God is doing in us. And I hope today is giving you a glimpse that God is doing something in the next generation. And let me tell you this, if this is just a small picture of all of our teenagers, Church Unleashed has a very, very bright future. An incredible future. So in our last couple of minutes before we shift gears, because we're going to pray over all of our students going back to school today too, but can you guys what would be your hope for Church Unleashed? Like, think 5 years down the road, what would be your, hey, this is what I pray God does in, at, and through Church Unleashed? What would it be?
I think mine would definitely be that everyone has that moment with God. Not just us teens. I feel like every adult needs to have that moment because it's an unexplainable moment. It's like it's just like, I can't explain it, but you know it's happening, that God is shifting your life. So I feel like anybody that comes to those doors, I hope we expand, but I also hope that when you're in this place, you have that moment with God.
Okay, good.
I think for me, I just want us to grow in numbers. And I know everyone's like, grow in numbers. But it's it's kind of selfish of us to keep it to ourselves because I'm pretty sure some of us, or most of us, has given their lives to Christ and understand his goodness and his mercy and experience everything. So it's if we keep it to ourselves, why wouldn't you want to spread it to other people so that you can add other people to heaven? I know I struggle with that myself, inviting friends with that. So I just pray that we express the word of God and I don't want it to be you feel like it's a job. I want us to have the desire to want to invite people to church and bring people here.
Yeah, that's good.
So to kind of add on what Precious said, if we have a church that's living and people are growing in their faith, but our island's dying, then we have a problem. So for us to keep on growing and growing and growing, but everybody else on this island is dying and in need of Jesus, then we have a problem because this church isn't about us. And I don't know, that just really resonates with me because, I have friends in school, and I'm sure we all do, who are making the wrong decisions, who are, battling something, who, lost a parent or anything really, dealing with drugs, any of that. So for us to keep this, I don't want to say secret, but I'll use the word anyways, secret of Jesus to ourselves is selfish and is actually a sin. So if we want to be more Christ-like, we shouldn't be afraid to share Christ with whoever needs it. So I think that's literally the most important thing, because we could all grow in our faith. Any of us could grow in our faith, but if we're not telling other people about Jesus, the sad reality is they're going to hell, and I don't want nobody to go to hell, and I don't want my friends to go to hell, and I know that there's an eternity for them, but as Christians, it's a responsibility for us to lead them to the right place, and that's heaven, and we have to do that as Christians, and that's our responsibility, and that's the last thing Jesus told us to do before he ascended to heaven. He said, go around and tell all the world and tell them about the gospel, baptizing them in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And that's what we have to do as Christians, whether we like it or not. That's what we have to do.
All right. I'm going to keep it simple.
Oh my God.
It's about to get complicated.
My one wish for this church, it's a big wish, but my one wish is that we can become worldwide. Keep it simple.
That's a little complicated. You just complicated my life. Thank you. That's good.
I'm actually gonna agree with Isaiah. I believe that first of all, this church is extraordinary. There's nothing else out there in the world like it. They say Disney is the happiest place on earth, but here I feel so welcomed. Everyone's so welcoming. I feel like I really have a place in this church, and man, I really didn't want to be emotional. I thought I could last. So I feel like everyone on planet Earth should have the opportunity to the namesake be unleashed, because I really feel like it's unleashed my potential as a human being to grow and really show the love of God to everyone else on the earth, you know, because this church does a lot. The worship team is extraordinary. The pastors are extraordinary. We do extraordinary events like Night to Shine, Long Island a Bird. We really look out for the community. So it's just, this church is, I feel, the only church that can really reach everyone and unleash their potential.
So let's break it down here, because we're going to have a time of prayer for all of our students.